Sure.
Hey, Scott, Real Water
Hey.
Sports just landed 30 new Pat Rawson surfboards.
Rad. That's got to make everybody froth. I'm frothing just thinking about it.
I have a feeling that deal may have been sorted at the Boardroom show. I don't know. Maybe it was in action before the Boardroom show.
Yeah. Pat and Tripp have been doing business for years and years and years. So it doesn't surprise me that you've got two of the greatest, Real Water Sports and Tripp Foreman with Pat Rawson teaming up to bring you incredible surfboards on the East Coast and around the world via realwatersports.com.
Yeah, 30 new Rawsons, all shaped and built in Hawaii, available through realwatersports.com. I think they actually had some in stock already. So they have like 70 something Rawsons. That's just part of their 1,500 board inventory. All of it is available to all of our listeners because you can order it online and it is guaranteed to show up at your door blemish free, and they ship worldwide. So realwatersports.com. Of course, they are doing that Cyber Surfboard Monday for the Monday after Thanksgiving, Cyber Monday, where you get $100 off any surfboard purchase, whether it's a custom or a stock board. But if you find one of those Rawsons today, it might not be there on Cyber Surfboard Monday. So you're going to have to manage that on your own. Save $100 on Cyber Surfboard Monday or get it while you can.
Very cool. I'm psyched on Cyber Surfboard Monday. Hell yeah.
They also,
sorry, I was reading something else. It seems like I was engaged. I was engaged in this other thing over here. So I apologize. Well, good read though. Good read.
Thank you. And if you need fins for a surfboard, Real actually also carries NVS fins, who we've been working with for over a year now.
Yeah.
And you can buy NVS fins on their website, surfnvs.com, of course, but they're also available through retail. And we always try to support retailers. So Real Water Sports in North Carolina, Bird Surf Shed in San Diego, Used Surf in San Clemente, who also has a demo program that I think is pretty epic. And then throughout the world, Clinica in Israel, Board Shop in England, SurfD in Norway. You can, of course, find links to all the retailers on surfnvs.com.
Heck yeah. Surfnvs.com. I love my NVS fins. And yeah, man. Welcome. Yeah, guy. Yeah, friggin' guy. It's time to say it. Somebody needs to say it. It needs to be said. Yeah, guy. And
there can only be one person that says it, Scott. I would never try to get in on that.
The funny thing is, as you know, when I was in high school 30 years ago, everybody said that. That was why we use this lead-in phrase, is that it's kind of tongue-in-cheek. It's kind of like, yeah, guy, what's up, bro? yeah, guy. You know,
we should do, this could be a really good like investigative podcast series, 6-part series where we trace the origins of Yeah Guy.
I would like to do that. I'm pretty sure the originator is Todd Martin.
Oh, really? You've already got it figured out. Wow.
It's more of an Encinitas, Seaside Reef, kind of like, you know, that whole scene there. That's kind of where I think the Yeah Guy started, but I could be wrong, you know? But yeah, Yeah Guy was kind of an Encinitas. I want to say it was kind of a Todd Martin, 1980, 1981, that kind of thing.
We got to track. Okay, so maybe it's not 6-parter. Maybe it's a 1-parter and it only lasts 15 minutes.
Yeah,
because you already know where he is.
Yeah,
but I guess the big reveal will be finding out how and why he landed on that phrase. I'm guessing he saw a guy that he knew.
Yeah. Okay, this is a good hypothesis.
And he wanted to share some sort of optimistic affirmation with the guy who he saw. And so out of his mouth, from the mouths of babes, came the phrase, yeah, guy.
I'm going to assume that it was probably, you know, he didn't know the person's name. And so you needed some sort of filler for the moment. So you're like, yeah, guy. Yeah. What's up, guy? It's kind of like, you know, guy is like, you know, it covers a lot of bases.
It doesn't in 2021, Scott.
No, it doesn't.
So
It doesn't.
it needs to be amended.
No, no, you
yeah,
cannot
guy.
amend it. Yeah, guy will never be amended. It is what
Yeah,
it is.
yeah, they.
It's Todd Martin, it's Lonnie Brothers, it's that whole crew of guys that were like a couple of years older than me. That and it was all There's not going to be they. It's going to be guy, friggin' guy. What's up, guy? Yeah, guy. Did you see that little? Oh, you know, Steve Colvin comes to mind. I just remembered Colby. Seaside, there was a little sandbar at Colby. Actually, what they call Palisades, or what we used to call Palisades, was also known as Colby Land for Steve Colvin. But this is way too, way too down a rabbit hole for the listeners. They don't need to hear it.
Well, I will, once you get canceled for saying yeah, guy.
Yeah.
I will be doing a monologue version of this show, and I will use they/them. That'll be the appropriate.
There's opportunity for a t-shirt here. There's no doubt.
Well, headstock. How was headstock last week?
Well, you know how when you go to a surfboard show, you come home with surfboards.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and produced Headstock Guitar Lovers Festival, and I came home with this killer new Telecaster, a Barncaster.
What in the world? It's made out of a barn?
Barncaster, barnwood.
It's made out of a barn.
There's a lot of reclamation going on in the guitar world.
Who made that thing?
A world-renowned, world-class guitar builder. It's got insane electronics in it. It's got DiMarzio cream humbuckers. His name's Fred, world famous Fred from the Repair Zone in San Diego. He's basically the guy that like when people come on tour and they need their guitar and their guitar tech can't figure it out, they go to Fred, and Fred dials it in. He's done guitar work for some of the greatest guitarists in the world.
Name three.
John Mayer, Eddie Vedder. That's the only two I can think off the top of my head.
Fancy list of clientele, man. Jesus.
Yeah.
That's a cool.
Yeah. So we had our own seltzer made. This is a bubble water citrus seltzer headstock. We had beers at the thing. Headstock golden ale. And the beer company Helia Brewery, my friend Kelby out of Lacadia. And he said, "Hey man, we can not only make beer, we can make you bubble water." And I was like, "Heck yeah, that'd be great," because I don't drink. So he made me some citrus seltzer.
It's whoever did the graphic design for your guys' stuff looks awesome.
Yeah, the graphic was done by my buddy Mike Nelson in Solana Beach. And sadly, I can't remember the name of his company, but he does a bunch of really cool stuff.
It's awesome.
He's very talented. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool, dude. So how did the show go?
It was great, man. It was such a raging success. I'm excited that it means that there will be a year 2 of Headstock. Some of the performances were mental. Are you a music fan? Sure you are. Of course you are. Yeah, your dad played music.
Yeah, I've mentioned that in the past. He actually doesn't build guitars. He's built a few guitars, let's say, over the years. I don't think he's done one in a few years, but he's in a band. He's in kind of the premier cover band out in the Palm Springs area. They're gigging all the time.
That's so great. He's got an incredible pickleball song, as I recall.
They have the pickleball song. Actually, if you go on Spotify, you can listen to it. But yeah, so he's always played guitar my entire life. He tried to teach me how to play guitar when I was young. He was in a band before I was born that almost, was on the verge of breaking big, but took a real job at some point, worked for 20 or 30 or 40 years. And in retirement, he's formed a band out in their retirement community, and they've become really popular in recent years. So they, now post-COVID, or not post-COVID, but now that everything's opening up again, they've got gigs lined up all the time and they're playing all the time.
You know what? Your dad would love Headstock. We had performances by surfers playing music. So Peter Sprague is a world-renowned jazz guitarist. He teamed up with Andy Powers, who's the head luthier at Taylor Guitars, the custom.
Wow.
And Andy is an incredible surfer himself. He's had full full profiles done on him in the Surfer's Journal. And he's an incredible builder and musician and surfer. So Peter and Andy, they play jazz. They're like high-end jazz, like it's insane. Like it's such high quality, professional, next level friggin' musicianship, compositions through the roof, like he can take like, Mary Had a Little Lamb and just turn it into this insane Miles Davis groove or Wes Montgomery groove or whatever. But anyway, so those guys played, and then there's this other band that I swear I think is going to be something big.
Really?
And the guy's a surfer from OB. He played at the Boardroom show.
Okay.
And his name is Cody Sherman. His band is called Band of Gringos. It's a power trio. And Cody Sherman is so talented. So is the bass player and the drummer. And Cody Sherman is like next level talent, and he's got an incredible voice. So he's kind of got it all. He's kind of got a Kenny Wayne Shepherd vibe, but he's got an incredible voice. Kind of got like the guitar chops of a young Stevie Ray Vaughan with Kenny Wayne Shepherd, but he's got a really, really, really great voice. So anyway, he played as well. And then Dusty Bruff, who's this world-class classical nylon string guitarist, who's also a surfer. These guys are all surfers.
Crazy.
So, it was cool. Anyway, I don't want to bore the surf listeners with my stuff, but that's what we did this weekend. We had the big guitar festival. It was really cool.
So let's explain to listeners, what do you do for a living? You're hosting events and trade shows throughout the year. We know of the Boardroom show. We know of Headstock. Are those the only two? This is obviously the first year of Headstock. How's your year filled?
I don't know what I do. I just kind of wing it, like, it's not like I have some master plan that I'm going to conquer. Me and my buddy are like, we went to NAMM, which is the big music show in Anaheim. It's a business to business trade show. The public's not invited, and to get into NAMM is kind of a cool thing. You got to have a pass or whatever and get invited. So we went to NAMM like 3 or 4 years ago, and we were like, shoot, man, it was really cool, but it was overwhelming. It's just like cacophony of sound, and it's almost just too much. You leave there just exhausted, and we thought, you know what, let's do a cool little show that's more intimate, that's more curated, that's more vetted, that we have control over, that's really groovy, and that's the builders, the custom builders of these instruments, these what they call luthiers. And we just went, let's just try it. Let's just see what happens. Let's just roll the dice. You never know, and look, it wasn't a moneymaker. We lost money on it, but you got to seed the show somehow. You got to try. You don't know if you have a business unless you try. And we're pretty excited about the germination for this first year. And we think that the show is going to take off because everybody was ecstatic about the show, and only positive stuff from both the industry and from the end user consumer that walked the show. Everybody really had a good time. So
is there a way to make it profitable? Like,
yeah. No, there is.
Well, it feels though that, like you're saying, the success of it is the fact that it is all local builders, local musicians, and it'd be easy just to grow as fast as possible and get to that cacophony that you're talking about that's just overgrown. So is there a way to keep it small and profitable?
Well, there's a fine line, right? A guy who I used to work for in the exposition business once said that core is poor,
Right.
And so there's a fine line. The way to make it profitable is to have a large company acknowledge that this is a really cool thing and step up and be a sponsor. And at that point, their company is sort of gets all the grooviness of a really unique artistic event, and all the mojo that flows off of that flows onto their brand. And so it's a win for everybody. And so we'll see. We don't know if we're going to be able to get sponsorship or not. Without sponsorship, there will be no money to be made. It'll just be my partner and I throwing money at a huge party. Basically.
That gets old quick.
Oh yeah.
So back to your business though, how many Boardroom shows are you doing a year? What's the goal?
Well, we're doing one right now. Before COVID, we were doing two. We did one in Japan and, excuse me, one here in Del Mar. And then of course I do a couple of California Gold vintage surf auctions as well. So I have 2 auctions a year. I have the Boardroom, maybe the Boardroom in Japan. I was thinking about Portugal. I'd like to do the Boardroom in Portugal. I think that'd be a good call. And then of course, Headstock Guitar Lovers Festival. So I'm constantly doing something. And
So Japan is a potential.
yeah, well, we can do Japan again for sure.
Okay, good. I feel like certainly from talking to listeners, you could do it on the East Coast, Europe, maybe the UK, even Japan, and potentially Hawaii. I feel like they would all support it every single year. It's a ton of work, and whether or not you could, organize that from afar or whatever would be kind of your thing to sort out. But I feel like the consumer demand is there in those locations,
Yeah, the thing is that with the Boardroom show, the industry itself, like, the surfboard builders, the fin makers, those guys that support the Boardroom show, they can only do one show a year. It only makes sense for them to do one show a year. Because on top of that, a lot of them do Surf Expo in Orlando, my friend Roy's show in Orlando, which is an important show for the Eastern Seaboard. And so a lot of those guys do that show. And so then, you can only do one show a year is enough for the industry. Now, does the end consumer, would they support a show in, say, New Jersey? Yeah, I think they would. But again, it's like convincing the builders, the industry to buy another booth for another show. It just gets exhausting.
Totally.
You got to do business. You can only have one show a year.
Right. I get it.
That shows in Southern California.
That's a conundrum. Well, hey, get that merch available on your website. We'll start buying seltzer water from you. Headstock seltzer water.
It's a kind of a scam. Merch. Like merch is not easy to deal with. Like merch is like a pain in the ass. When you actually look at the margin, how much you make, especially with t-shirts, you got the wrong sizes.
Go look at my garage right now.
4 or 5 boxes sitting behind you. I'm sure you do. You know what I'm saying? Like, so merch is kind of like, it's just more of a marketing adventure than anything else.
Totally. It's a nightmare. But beverage merch seems to be a lot of people making a killing in that in recent years. A lot of pro surfers investments have paid dividends.
Greg Anderson. All those guys, it's like, if you're not involved in a brewery, it's almost like the cliche thing. It's like in the 90s, if you're a pro surfer, you had a guitar.
Yeah.
And then now in the 2020s, if you're not involved in some sort of tequila or beer company, you're blowing it.
Well, St. Archer
many have already waved in their profits and are laughing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, St. Archer was the first and the biggest story. A number of surfers and skaters got behind that. And I feel like the investment wasn't, I don't want to misspeak, but I feel like it was $50,000 buy-in, and maybe somebody bought 2 or 3, buy-ins, and they ended up selling that. I don't know what the total investment was up front, but they ended up selling to Anheuser-Busch, and everybody made a significant multiple off that $50,000 investment and did really well, and then parlayed it into other investments, other alcohol industry investments. I feel like beer, though, now has run its course. Like that was the investment, like you said, 5 and 10 years ago. I'm not sure that would be prudent at this point. You're late to that game. So we got to figure out what's next. Coconut water, maybe.
Who knows? That's a good idea, though. Trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm not sure what you have in your notes. My lead story this week is the foil retribution under the San Francisco Pier. Did you see this?
I did see this. That's so funny that's your lead. What about massive jaws and the body surfer that made, God, he got a couple of insane waves at jaws. But yeah, that's the funniest story for sure. Let's lead with that. That's great. Tell me, what did you learn?
So I'll just paint the picture real quick. I shouldn't have named the spot, I suppose. at an undisclosed location in Northern California, at a pretty marginal wave that would seem to be having a really good day, actually. A foil boarder got towed in to a wave from just a regular boat. What kind of a boat do you call that? Is that just it's like a water ski boat kind of, right?
Where did you see it? Where did you see this story?
Well, Gothic Dolphins Instagram account is where I watched the video.
Oh,
Gothic_Dolphins.
okay.
Anyways, a boat, just like a recreational power boat kind of thing.
Yeah.
Literally tows out, which I never even see that type of a boat towing people into a surf lineup. That was the first most confusing part, is that a boat is entering the surf lineup. This is a highly localized spot, notoriously localized spot, where it doesn't matter what type of surfboard or craft you're on, you're liable to get yelled at and even attacked and accosted by the locals there. This guy shows up with a boat on a foil, tethering on a foil behind the boat, and the boat tows him into a set wave. And you watch the foil boarder, who looks very tentative. He does not look like he knows what he's doing at all. He's super shaky. This is not Kai Lenny making a vlog. This is just a rando, but he does have a helmet and a GoPro on his helmet, which adds to the kookiness.
That's what I noticed.
It's like, dude, you're going to get slapped no matter what, just for showing up looking like that. Forget the fact that you brought a boat and forget the fact that you brought a foil. Anyways, cut to the very next scene is his foil on the beach and locals slamming rocks on top of it to break his surfboard and foil. So the story there is like, wow, these locals were so angry that they attacked this guy's super expensive recreational surf equipment. What's your take on this, Scott? Is it ever justified to damage somebody's property?
I mean, my take on it is this, that guy's an idiot. Like, you just have no common sense if you're going to get a boat to tow you in on anything with what appeared to be a pretty crowded situation. There was 15 to 12 to 20 people in the water. You're looking at 2 to 4 waves a set. They're all probably pretty, that's a localized spot, I guess, Fort Point. There's no need to hide it. If the video's out there, it's underneath the Golden Gate Bridge, for God's sakes. It's not like it's off the beaten path. My take on it is the guy's an idiot. Now, would I personally be throwing boulders at the guy? No, I've got way better things to do with my life, and I don't need the drama. And hopefully my ego is not going to take me to a place where I'm throwing boulders at anything. So, the guy's an idiot. And I think, what happened to his board is probably makes sense. You know what I'm saying? It makes sense. I'm not saying I condone it. I'm just saying it makes a lot of sense.
Is it ever justifiable to damage somebody else's property in such a fashion?
No, it's silly because what you really need to do is you need to excavate why you're doing what you're doing. Are you trying to tell him not to ever do it again? Well, why not just talk to him? You know what I mean?
Okay. So you don't want to be the guy throwing the boulders, as you stated,
right?
But are you happy that those guys threw the boulders? Is there any part of you that gets a little twinge of like, thank goodness that happened?
No, I actually kind of looked at it like, that's pretty stupid. That's
Really?
kind of a stupid move. There's people videoing him, even if there's no one videoing, like there's no consequences for your boulder throwing. It's kind of third grade. Like, it's kind of like, look, the guy's board got washed in. I think at that point, the thing to do is to just talk to him, and just go, what are you thinking? Like, why do you think this is a good idea? Like, what part of this was a good idea? And then, of course, you never know. You could get the guy that's like, hey, screw you, man. I get to surf here. You could get like the full idiot response.
And then the boulder comes out.
And then the boulders are okay. No, the boulders are, I just, I'm not going to be the guy that throws the boulders. But like I said, there's, it's kind of like if you run across the freeway, you're probably going to get run over by a car. And it's probably the thing that makes sense. That makes sense. Like, you're gonna get hit by a car. That makes sense to me, you know, like the odds are in your favor that you're gonna get smoked.
But this would
So
be somebody steering their car into the runner
I'm just saying,
just to ensure
It's a-
that everything happens.
it's just a bad idea. You know, like,
I-
who's to say I drove my car into the guy? He was in my lane. I was just doing the safe thing and staying in my lane.
so
I don't know, David.
I agree with everything that you're saying, but I do think, like, I don't want to be the boulder thrower either, but I'm glad that this happened. And I can't justify it. You can create metaphors that'll make me look hypocritical because something else I would not justify. It's hard to even say when it's justifiable to smash somebody else's public property, or not public, but private property, personal property. But it had to happen. This guy it had to happen. Like, if we're going to be living, and so here's what I can't justify. If we're going to be living in a civilized society together, there needs to be codes of conduct and rules.
Rule
And
of
this
law.
guy just is living in a time where he knows that he could sue. He's living in a time where he knows he's going to be protected by all these buffers around him. So he's just going to go out and he's going to run amok. He's taking advantage of the civilized society. So now what I'm justifying is an even more aggressive act of retribution to set the civil, to set everything civil again, which is hard to justify. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's hard to be like, oh, you stepped out, so now we're going to step out extra hard to check you. But I love the fact that that happens in surfing. I love that surfing is a place where that can still happen. Where if we don't have all the rules written down, we don't have a rule that says you can't bring a boat into the lineup or that you can't bring the e-foil into the lineup, but
Was it an e-foil? No, it wasn't.
Oh, I think it was just a regular foil. Yeah. Because if it was an E, then the boat makes it an E foil, basically.
Right.
So it's an assisted foil. But, you know, if you're going to do something that is so far outside the
Rude.
lines,
What he did was rude. What he did was
completely
just simply rude.
very rude, very dangerous. By
Super
virtue
selfish.
of virtue of the fact that the foil ended up on the beach. It's not tethered to him. So he ate it, and the thing probably did cartwheels to the beach through the crowded lineup. So he absolutely deserved to get checked. I do not think talking to him would have been adequate enough. I don't even think calling the cops and having the cops come in and get involved is adequate enough. You know what's adequate in this moment? I can't justify it in any other way, in any other moment, but in this moment, you're getting boulders smashed into your board, and which will keep you out of here for the rest of today. Hopefully it'll keep you out for long enough to get the board fixed. And best case scenario, you're shamed enough and I don't know, even scared enough to where you just don't come back, period. I don't know why. I think I can justify it.
Yeah, I totally get it. You know, part of me too is like, part of it pulls at my heartstrings of, you know, the old days when
Yes.
there wasn't any video and like, this is how it went down. Like, sorry. And then part of me is like, what do you think society would be like if you got caught stealing, we cut off your hand? Do you think
Not
that there
great.
would be, do you think that there would be less thieves?
Yeah.
Should we go full Taliban? Because this was
No.
full Taliban, which I mean,
This wasn't full Taliban.
I
This
mean,
was appropriate for
I
the
agree.
setting.
totally agree.
Cutting off somebody's hands because they stole isn't appropriate, and especially if in that society you've starved your people, you know, and so they're just
Yeah,
trying to get a
well, no,
loaf
I
of
agree.
bread, and then
Yeah,
they
I know.
lose a hand. So I think we're living, but I hear what you're saying. We don't need to go that extreme. I think we're living in a very comfortable place that we all need to kind of not take advantage of these things. We all need to respect that we're allowed to move around with a certain amount of autonomy that don't go infringing on other people's autonomy. Otherwise, you are going to get checked. You know, that's kind of, this is just so outlandish. He needed to get checked.
It's so, this guy told, I mean, there's no doubt that this guy needed to get checked. And look, it's it's a good thing that it happened. Like I said, it makes sense that this happened. It makes tons of sense. Like,
It totally
You
does.
do X and you get Y. Like the equation all pans out perfectly.
I'm glad to see it happen. Now, the problem is I don't want to support or back the locals at Fort Point because, from my understanding, they go overboard more often, or they've gone overboard enough to not support them. Basically, like in the old school days of localism, I barely came up in it, right? But the way it existed, I knew I could surf pretty much wherever I went in the world as long as I was respectful of those locals and kind of applied the same rites of passage that I learned at my beaches. So sit on the inside, catch some waves, be quiet, don't make a noise, don't bring a cameraman, and then if a wave comes to me, if a set wave happens to come to me and I get it, and then I get burned by a local, I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to quietly kick out and just go sit on the side and get another. And that all worked. I never got punched out.
Is why localism works so good is because you don't ever really have to do any punching. Like there's just one incident that, or one, like maybe it is just one incident that has occurred and it gets spread like wildfire.
Yeah.
It's like urban myth. And so there's this like drapery of, oh no, don't, like it works because everyone's like afraid that they're going to be the guy that gets punched out and gets a fin in the face from a gnarly mean local guy.
Yeah.
But that gnarly mean local guy rarely even exists.
Yeah.
But because at one point something like this happened where a guy fucked up and another guy threw boulders at his board, this is legendary. It's going to carry tons of weight at this spot for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And so it's going to work. And it's kind of like, if you cut one guy's hand off, is that going to carry enough mojo where people are going to be like, holy shit, I want to keep my hand. So this loaf of bread, maybe I'm not going to grab it.
Totally. If you do, yes. Yeah. That's why it's good that we talk about this. Hopefully we just build the lore and spread enough lore to where it keeps people in check.
Yeah.
So that's the localism of old, I think was, properly doled out often, and so I worry that crew there, I don't want to get behind them and support them because they're not cutting people's hands off. But if the retribution is so much greater than the original crime,
yeah,
then lawyers do get involved or the police do get involved, and then they shut everything down and it becomes completely Disneylandified.
If the local justice department, and I mean like these guys, the locals, like if the people that are determining what sort of justice should be meted out, if it gets to their head and they're not smart and they're not looking at it from the community vantage point, they're looking at it more from a selfish vantage point. Like if I do this to them, I'll get more, as opposed to, we need to stop this guy over here because it's better for the serenity of the community if we just put a quick stop to this. Like, so if that's the problem with condoning this, is that you're allowing people to go, oh cool, we can just tell everyone to fuck off, and that's not cool either.
No, but in this time, in this place, this guy had it coming. I would argue you don't even need to be on a foil. Anytime you show up and start towing in at a crowded lineup, good luck. You're left. And I mean, I guess that goes for everybody other than like when Joel Parkinson and Mick Fanning do it at the Superbank during Pumping Swell, because they do that and that's insanely crowded. But they get away with it.
I know, but I think Stu Nettle or somebody, maybe you and I talked about it. Maybe it was on Coastal Watch or SwellNet, or I forget where, or no, I think it was on Stab. Wasn't it on Stab where they did an article on skis? Like skis are kind of lame.
They're super lame. In a crowded lineup, they're super lame.
Akira, I don't give a shit how strong the current is. Like, to me, the only thing is the ski is like a super long leash. It's like skis ruin surfing. You know what I mean? Like,
completely.
Now, granted, there's going to be places where you're going to want to go do step offs where there's nobody else around. Okay, I get it, But for the most part, you can't roll up at a city beach and be doing step offs.
That's what I'm saying. Once you tow in at a crowded lineup, you're wrong.
And the thing that these pro surfers, I guess it's more in Australia, that they get a pass, that they just get to do it because they say so, because they're like, because they do a better off the lip than the next guy. It's kind of, I don't know, man.
Well, the reason I
Leashes
gave
ruin surfing. We need to get rid of the skis and the leash.
the only reason I
Can't
use
paddle
those
out. Go ahead.
the only reason I use those guys as like an example that was acceptable is because I don't live there and that's not my spot, and they seem to get away with it, and people seem to just, you know, acquiesce and allow them to do it. And maybe it's just because not only do they rule that break, but they're so spectacular to watch, you almost want to witness it, you know. But then remember DHD dumped his ski.
No.
DHD, yeah, this was like 4 or 5 years ago. Darren Hanley was driving and he whipped, I want to say Parco, or maybe it was Mick, in and dumped the ski, like couldn't get out of the wave in time and just went full head over heels, flipped the thing at Kira on like a double overhead day, and it got washed through the lineup. He got fined for it, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting situation. What are you going to do? This is sort of a surfers are the worst moment, really, when you think about it. Like,
surfers are the best for this reason. The fact that we can do this, you know what I mean? Like, you
part
can't.
of it that it feels like you're kind of throwing boulders at Mark Zuckerberg as part of the thing.
It is.
Feels like,
especially in San Francisco.
Facebook. Yeah. This is some Silicon Valley barn that's just like got
Exactly.
so much money. He's like, what the hell? Oh, I lost my ski. Just leave it on the rocks. Let's go. Let's go back
Yeah.
to the
Bring the boat around and pick me up.
Caviar.
Just leave the ski. Leave the ski. They're beating it up. Just we'll get a new one. Just
leave
pick
the
me
boat
up
too. Just like
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I liked this story. Don't tow in anywhere that's crowded, and leave the foil as well out of the crowd.
This must have made it to Beach Grit. What did the commentators over there do? I bet they went crazy.
I have no idea.
Lordy.
So yeah, Hawaii gets early season pulse, maybe not that early, kind of right on track, I suppose. Waimea, Pipe, Piahe, all breaking. What do you got, Scott?
Well, I would just, my thing is that, you know, there's some video out there of the swell a couple days that went at Piahe, and it just looked really good. Like it wasn't massive. It wasn't like 35-foot Piahe. It was like, whatever, you know, I'm not going to throw numbers on it. Let's call it 18 to 20 or whatever. But
I'm not going to throw numbers on it. Let's call it 18 to 20.
Well, my point is, I'm not the guy to throw numbers on it, but you know, I'm going to say it was okay. It was, I don't know. It was big.
Throw numbers on it. Throw numbers.
Okay, I did. But my point is that it was kind of clean and like West Bowl, and it was like a good opening day type of swell. Like it wasn't massive, out of control. All the guys got to really kind of get warmed up, so to speak, and the gals, because I know I saw Kiala on a few waves. So anyway, it was just, I think if you're one of the crew, it was a pretty cool opening day type of vibe, because like I say, wasn't massive over the top. There was insane tubes to be had, and they had them. And yeah, it was, I like the fact that it wasn't massive on the, you know, for those guys. I'm just imagining that those guys were all stoked. It just looked really clean. Like there was some evening sessions where the wind laid down, and I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
So Kai Lenny posted an image, video from the cliff on Instagram of, quote, the biggest set of the day, cleaned up the entire lineup. I dodged the bullet by having ridden the set before and was on my way back out in the channel when this happened. You can hear the video that multiple people had 2-wave hold downs. That's even with an inflatable vest deployed. So being held down with the inflatable vest for 2 waves. And he said, unfortunately, I heard that Steve, I don't have his last name, but I'll find it, broke his femur during this ordeal. I hope that he's okay and he recovers fast. Steve actually wrote in to Kai and he said, hey, Kai, I suffered a spinal fracture of my femur, a spiral fracture of my femur, and underwent surgery at Maui Memorial yesterday. I managed to make it under the first one, and I was the furthest inside, but the board got caught and leash broke my leg instantly. Managed to release my pin on the leash after about 15 seconds, did not surface, and the second wave sent me down again before eventually my vest pulled me up. Luckily, we had hired safety, and they picked me up and got me on the boat and on my way to the where the fire department and the ambulance picked me up. So experts expect a full recovery. So that's a pretty harrowing situation for Steve Rice is his name.
Well, shoot, that sounds spooky, scary. Yeah, sorry to hear that. But
broken femur, he said, due to his having the leash.
That's
So
gnarly.
yeah, so like I would imagine just the full extension, the wave kind of pulling your leg that hard breaks the femur.
Wow, that's that's a lot of pulling, man. To break your femur, a leash breaks your femur.
Crazy.
That sounds crazy.
Crazy.
You know what I'm watching right now? Did you see this footage of Slater at Honolulu Bay?
No, from that same swell.
Yeah,
Oh man, he's all over the place.
I'm guessing because it's
Where'd you find it?
This was
Surfline?
posted yesterday, but no,
Where'd
it's
you
on
find
the
it?
Surfer Magazine forums.
Oh, okay.
I'm assuming it was like that swell, but
Well, you referenced in the opening of the show Kalani Latanzi, who is the Brazilian body surfer out at Jaws.
yeah,
Chizo Pizzo, dude. So I'm claiming that wave is 18 to 20, let's say. I don't want to put numbers on it, but I mean, it is. You're right. That's exactly what, if I said 15, I'd feel like I was cutting him short.
Yeah.
20 feels like it's a little bit big. I'd say that's an 18-foot wave. Hard
Yeah.
to tell because of the angle.
yeah,
But
you know,
dude, the guy's body surfing Jaws.
it's
So he's
gnarly. And
swimming
He's pulling
at
it
Jaws.
off. He's pulling it off. Is what's insane. He's making the wave. Like he's talented enough to be kicking and swimming while he's riding the wave to stay with it to be able to like deal with the foam ball and stuff. It's the guy's got talent like next level.
He really does. He does have some sort of a hand plane.
Yeah.
But even still, he gets fully barreled and comes out at Jaws body surfing, and he rides the foam ball for, I'd say, 6 seconds.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Is he the greatest surfer in the world?
No, he's not.
No?
Mike Stewart is. But
By the way, this is from 2016, apparently.
oh, geez.
Sorry.
Timely reference, Scott. Thanks.
But it was posted yesterday. So I thought, oh, maybe this is, go ahead.
So Kalani Latanzi, number one, I don't body surf waves that big, but that lineup, there's so much room to move in that lineup that the idea of just swimming in it, you can't cover very much ground when you're swimming. So that set wave that Kai Lenny posted, I mean, if you're in position for where most of the waves are breaking and you don't have a board, even if you do have a board, those guys got caught inside. So if you're just swimming, there's no way for you to make it to safety. And I don't know what you do. I mean, you just dive under a massive wave at Jaws. What do you do?
Yeah, well, I can't speak for this gentleman, but I'm going to assume that he's sort of and from the video that I saw, I sensed that he was sort of sitting on the inside bowl and just kind of picking off the ones that came underneath everybody. And so when a massive set comes, maybe he can swim, 25 yards to safety because it doesn't take much to get into the corner, into the channel.
Except if that inside bowl still jacks, 20 yards out.
I can't speak. I'm not an expert, but I'm just assuming. I have done some body surfing at some real, like spots that are surfboard waves. And my little, Peabody experience was that I hung out on the corner so that I could catch the ones that nobody catches and then also split off into the channel and not be too freaked out.
Well, the other thing is he can't wear flotation because that would prohibit you from.
I noticed that.
Body
Yeah,
surfing.
that's weird, huh?
So like if you do get held down 1 or 2 waves, you don't have the assist of the flotation to pull you up. My final thing that I'm blown away by is whenever I body surf, there's a portion of time where you put your head down to kind of project forward and get momentum that way.
Yeah.
but you have to hold your breath through a lot of that. And I find myself actually holding my breath through 90% of the body surf, just maybe take a gasp every once in a while, just one gasp. He had to be holding his breath forever. Certainly during that entire foam ball ride, he was holding his breath, but it's just an unbelievable feat.
Well, those guys are absolutely amazing water people. I mean, those guys the regulars at Point Panic and the guys that body surf at Pipe and this gentleman, like it is next level as far as fitness. Because you mentioned breathing and like just you have to have a sort of calmness about you so that you are kind of breathing instead of just holding your breath and gripping through the whole ride. So that's why I asked you if you think he's the best surfer ever, because some of the greatest surfers in the world couldn't do what that guy did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Now, totally.
I know it's kind of apples and oranges, but
it is, yeah.
But there are guys like Mike Stewart, Dave Rostovich comes to mind. There are
Cunningham.
Yeah, Mark, but he doesn't stand up surf. So I'm trying to think of guys that stand up surf, but also that ride a board like Mike.
Kelly.
Who are the brothers I'm trying to think of?
Malloy's.
Keith. Yeah. So Keith Malloy, he's one of those guys. So those guys can kind of do it both. And they're in that Kai Lenny thing where like, they're taking different disciplines and they're kind of dominating. And of the really hard disciplines, okay, we've got standing up on a surfboard. The hardest discipline might be body surfing.
Yeah.
I mean, body surfing jaws, that's a pretty hard discipline. There's not, how many guys in that lineup that are out there with that guy could do what he did? And if
None.
you flipped it, do you think he could do what they were doing? And the answer is, yeah, I bet he could probably stand up on a surfboard.
I don't know.
He's a Hawaiian guy. Like they're born with that.
He's Brazilian.
Oh, is he Brazilian? That's what you said.
Yeah.
Earlier. I apologize.
So I think it's interesting. Body surfing's the easiest thing out of all those things to learn, but probably the hardest to get that good at.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would agree with you, because what are you doing really? All you're doing is just planing on the surface of your chest and your arms. Like that's it. You just learned like that, like you're not like doing, fins free cutbacks or whatever. But I think learning it and as opposed
to get to that level.
Yeah, to be that proficient is night and day, because you talked about breathing, you talked about things that, I mean, just the fitness alone is next level.
Yeah, you have to be an expert swimmer, beyond expert. Michael Phelps couldn't hang out there.
What is beyond expert? Like what's next?
The point, I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. But my point is, Phelps can swim in a pool. He wouldn't be able to hang out there.
I bet Phelps could learn and be one of the best in the world. I think once you've got that long, like you look at those guys like Mark Cunningham, Phelps, all the swimmers have this real long, lanky kind of elastic body, and so I bet Phelps could learn to do it.
The fear would extinguish all of his prowess.
It might.
Do you want to talk about WSL, the CT shake or Challenger Series shakeup at all?
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of the pro surfing story right now, is the Challenger Series. It's kind of neat. I was thinking about it earlier today. It is kind of neat that things stop in September and we do get to kind of focus on the Challenger Series. And you mentioned this last week, I believe. It's kind of a good thing, right?
I agree.
Because it needs some attention. It deserves attention. Like these guys that are striving to make the tour, these top 10 guys, it's actually a pretty good story. Like if it had room to breathe, which it does now, it makes for a good story.
It does. And so, yeah, there's lots of good about this Challenger Series. I'd say it's almost all good. The way it was before, it was just too diffused and hard to track. And there's always events going on around the world. And you and I care about surfing. We couldn't even track it all. And so, yeah, this allows almost a third tier where that's all still happening around the world via the qualifying series. But then there's this, middle tier that is really the elite people from that tour vying for enough points to make it onto the CT. So the big shakeup this past week, though, was they'd implemented a new rule this year where double qualifiers. So Kanoa Igarashi, who's on the CT currently, his spot is secure on the CT. He's also one of those top 10 on the Challenger Series. And so in the past, they would have allowed the 11th person from the Challenger Series in, because Kanoa, I think I said Kanoa previously, Kanoa, he's already number, 7 in the world. So he doesn't need his Challenger Series spot. So that gets vacated and they just bump up number 11 into number 10. Well, they were going to do away with that this year and give those spots to wild cards, which would make you think that the WSL is going to just pick the wild cards. Either maybe they're going to be a sponsor's wild card. Maybe they were going to just pick them based on, I don't know, who's the most popular surfer that will garner the most views and eyeballs. And the QS series completely resisted that idea. And they even formed a petition. They started a petition. It circulated around WSL surfers. So they've got over 100 signatures from not only the QS Warriors, but CT stars like Gabriel Medina, Felipe Toledo, Tatiana Weston Webb, all got behind it and said, this makes no sense, because Morgan Siblick got onto tour because somebody else double qualified. He was not in that top 10. Somebody else double qualified. Morgan got on tour and then he made the top 5. So there's justification for giving the 11th or the 12th or the 13th qualifying person a shot. And the WSL reported on stabmag.com, I think yesterday, they said an email went out to the athletes. They didn't release a press statement about it, but it went out to the athletes and the athletes leaked it to Stab. And the WSL said they are going to rescind the rule and allow double qualifiers again this year.
So state that again for me. So if you're a double qualifier, for instance, Kanoa is number 1 on the Challenger Series right?
Yep.
And he's a CT or already qualified. Is he already qualified for the CT?
Yep.
And so what does that mean for Kanoa and for his number 1 ranking here? Does that mean that number 11 will get to move into the challenge, into the CT?
Correct.
Okay.
So
Kanoa's
not
qualify, you get kicked out of the Challenger Series.
Kanoa's
kicked
not
out of the top 10.
Yeah, Kanoa is not affected by this at all, but number 11 benefits from this rule being rescinded.
That's your man, Carlos Munoz.
There you go. And Kanoa even said, I think Stab actually interviewed him, and Kanoa said, I felt bad competing in France on the QS recently, this last month, because because I knew if I beat, let's say, Carlos Munoz in this heat, he's not going to get a shot. I feel like I'm taking something away from somebody. Whereas I would like to be able to show up to these events and go all out and just win the thing, knowing that Carlos is going to get in either way. Yeah.
And he gets his practice in. Kanoa gets his practice in.
Correct.
But right now, as you probably know, Caleb Robeson is number 12. There's 2 CT double qualifiers, that Griffin and Kanoa. And so with those gone, that gets us to number 12, Caleb Robson, and number 11 is Carlos Munoz. Those would be 9 and 10 effectively.
Okay.
And Nat Young is back. I'm sure. Let's talk about these guys. So this is going into Haleiwa, right? Haleiwa is the last event. It starts in like 10 days or something. Less than that. The 16th, I think, of November.
Okay.
So next week, more or less, what's today? The 9th, the 8th?
Yeah, 9th.
In 8 days it starts. And Nat Young, Zeke Lau.
Zeke Lau won the Ultimate Surfer as well. So he's got 3 wild cards on the CT this year anyways, but he might qualify through the Challenger Series.
And ways to get in.
Yeah. And by the way, Koa Smith took to Instagram last week and he's like, look, I finished runner-up on the Ultimate Surfer. If Zeke qualifies via the Challenger Series, those are 3 wild card spots that are just available. They should give them to me. And the WSL responded and said, no, that's not the way this works. So they acquiesced to the petition. They did not acquiesce to Koa's demands or pleas.
What do you think about that? Do you think
that's fine? I don't think he earned it. No. I think so about this Challenger Series. It's on a name by name basis. If you ask me what I think about it.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I'm glad to see Carlos Munoz. I don't need to see Zeke Lau again. No offense. I don't need to see Nat Young again either. And maybe it's the fact that it's again for me, because we've seen them once or twice before. I don't think they're going to come on and blow anybody's minds. I think they're going to be a marginally better version than they were the last time, which still isn't as exciting as Felipe Toledo or even Kanoe Igarashi. Now,
who on this list of 12 or 10, let's say, is exciting? Like
I'll have to pull it up.
I'm stoked he's on here. I'm stoked to watch. So the one that sticks out to me is number 17, who's not even qualified yet, is Mateus Hurdy, right? We know that kid is exciting.
Yeah, I'm down for that. The last year where Ethan Ewing, got a second chance. That was something I was glad to see, because I feel like he actually has the ability and the talent to surprise us. And his first year on tour, he just simply wasn't able to pull it together. But by and large, they generally don't. They generally don't have the talent or the excitement factor.
If you looked at this list, right, we're looking at the challenger list. There's 50 people on the first page. I'd much rather just pick the 10 people that we want to watch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, okay, I know this might upset you a little bit, but I want to watch Jake Marshall. He deserves a chance. He deserves a chance. I'm okay with I'm a Kalani default.
Yeah, me too. Super exciting.
I'm okay with Connor O'Leary. I'm okay with Carlos Munoz.
Thank you. Matt Banning down there too.
Hell no.
Mateus Hurdy.
Hell to the no.
Mateus Hurdy for sure.
Yeah, Mateus.
I'm just keeping scrolling down because Hiroto Ohara could be interesting.
I was thinking that too. I would love for Hiroto. He needs to be in there.
So definite no's. Alejo
Those
Muniz,
are easier almost. Definite no's are easier than yeses, I think.
For sure. Alejo Muniz, we've seen before. Tiago Camarao,
start at the top. Start at the top. Who's a definite no? Zeke Lau?
For me, Zeke Lau, yeah.
Nat Young?
Leonardo Fioravanti.
He double qualifies.
Oh, okay. Tiago Camarao, Alejo Muniz, Maxime Husino, Alex Ribeiro, Ramsey Bukayo, definitely no. Vasco Ribeiro, Jesse Mendez, Patrick Kadauskas, Wiggly Dantes.
Jack Robinson's on there. Oh, he qualified.
But he's still on the CT. Yeah. Ian Gouveia, I don't need to see again. Wesley Dantes, definitely don't.
I'd like to see Josh Burke.
Yeah, Josh Burke would be interesting. Could be interesting. Barrick DeVries could be interesting.
And a lot of
Cade Madsen could be interesting.
It's about fresh faces and fresh new things. We're not saying they're better than these other guys. We're just saying, let's give us something fresh, give us something exciting. And that kind of speaks to, look, that maybe the CT does already have too many people. We know they're cutting it down. I think halfway through this year, they're going to cut the CT number of surfers in half. But God,
Well, Julian Wilson was interviewed by the Daily Telegraph. Did you see this?
No.
So Beach Grit wrote a headline that makes it sound way more sensational than it is. It says,
no way.
Shocking, right? If you can ever even decipher what the headline means, it says, in darkly candid moment, Australia's Julian Wilson declares that the World Surf League's Dream Tour is dead, that Brazilian professional surfers will never again taste the ignominy of defeat. Ignominy of defeat.
We're gonna have to look that up.
But okay, so here's the actual Julian's quote. Julian, aside from the headline, salacious headline, the quote is worth you and I discussing. He says, the Olympics were much better than I imagined. And I felt so much responsibility representing Australia. It was so much bigger than I thought. Nothing like a surfing event that I had ever been to. I was completely blown away. Even without spectators, it was the biggest event that I had surfed at. The athletes' villages, the opening ceremony, the athletes were like avatars. They were such specimens and so primed and just ready for their Olympic moment. And all the Brazilians and the Brazilians all year have been the ones to beat. With all the changes that has helped the World Tour and that have helped with all the changes that have happened with the World Tour and the competition schedules, the Brazilians have been too hungry. They are the most tenacious with the waves. Most people would say a lot of waves at the World Tour events were mediocre this year compared to the standard quality of waves, but the Brazilians just stepped up. Until we go back to the full schedule of events, they will be very hard to beat. They are used to making the most of messy and inconsistent waves. That's the end of the quote. So he's giving credit to the Brazilians for being the most tenacious, but also for being the best in the style of waves that the CT surfed in 2020. Does this sound accurate? Does this sound like sour grapes?
I think it's accurate, but I think, the thing that's missing there is that he's suggesting that the Brazilians won't surf well in good waves, and that's just wrong. All you have to do is look at history. Just look at what Gabe has done. Look at what Elo has done.
So Brazilians are winning at Chopu, Pipe, J-Bay. Like
they just are.
So I think Julian's missing the point entirely. Or
what he was saying is that they're just more professional. That the Brazilians are just more professional in that they're willing to do what it takes
100%
to stand out in 3-foot shit and not complain about it and be stoked and let their surfing show their stokedness as they are about 8-foot chopes. Whereas the rest of us are like, oh, if it's not, it's a little bit onshore, forget it. This kind of sucks. WSL's lame. It's like the rest of them are
100%.
soft compared to the working class Brazilians.
And I would argue to Julian, what's the excuse for Californians? Like, we have plenty of crappy, inconsistent waves in California. And so our surfers should have the same amount of tenacity that the Brazilian surfers have. There's much more culturally going into their dominance, exactly, than just the waves that they have locally,
Yeah.
So
they're driven by an economic determinism that doesn't exist in these other places.
Yeah. Now, how do you feel about Julian? Will we ever see him again? And how does this make you feel about his mindset, or does it at all?
I'm kind of one where I don't care. I don't care about Julian Wilson. I just don't care. I stopped caring. Like, it's not like I'm going, oh, Julian's lame, or oh, I can't wait to see Julian. I just don't care.
Yep, me too.
And I don't care about very many of these guys in general. Like, I only care about the top 10.
You care about Jake Marshall.
What?
You care about Jake Marshall.
I like the idea that there's going to be young guys on tour doing something.
Yep.
But I mean, I'll be frank, Jake comes from the same place I come from, which is a land of plenty. And, we're both upper middle class Southern Californians, and we simply don't even understand the economic determinism that's driven some of these Brazilians that are literally like, if they don't surf and win, they're unemployed. Like, they're screwed.
Beyond that is Adriano de Souza is paying for his parents. He's paying for all sorts of other family members.
Right.
So it's not only is he not employed, his mom won't have a house to live in. His mom won't eat potentially, so that's a whole different thing that you're surfing for.
Totally. And sometimes that pressure gets to you, but bottom line is there's a reason that the Brazilians are dominating. And I don't think it's because they're necessarily, the bottom line is it's because they want it more. They simply want it more, and they need it more.
I think, to Julian's point, if it was the Dream Tour still and it was all held in pumping surf, there would be a little bit more diversity in that kind of top tier, like John Kelly, maybe even Julian himself would be kind of vying for that top 5. But without great waves, Julian doesn't stand a chance.
Yeah. And he's a world-class surfer, and we both love the way he surfs. But when we talk about putting on a jersey and realizing that, it's on, like I said, we're soft.
Yep. Agreed. I'm soft. I know that.
I'm super soft. Are you kidding me?
Physically
I've
and
had 2 Haagen-Dazs dark chocolate almond ice creams today.
2 in one.
Yeah, 2, and it's not even
It's
not
not
even
even.
3 o'clock,
Oh
and I've
my
had
gosh.
2, and I'm kind of wanting another, frankly. This is how
You,
soft we are. And guess what? I have a box of 24 of them. I literally grab one without getting out of my chair right now. That's how soft we are.
so soft that we can afford all the Haagen-Dazs we want until we gained 500 pounds and never fear. I mean, sounds like we're bragging. We're not. We're recognizing.
No.
You know what I did? What I had 2 of today?
Athletic greens?
No, only
AG1?
one. Only one of those. 2 wardrobe changes before 10 a.m.
Oh, because of the baby?
Spit up on the first and then pee on the second.
Yeah.
Standing in the doctor's office for a 2-week checkup, holding the doc checks the baby and then straps the diaper back on. I take the baby. I'm holding the baby. All of a sudden, my shirt is soaking wet. She did not strap that diaper on correctly. I think she did it with his weenie sticking up into the waistband. So when he peed, it just shot straight up the waistband. Exactly. And soaked me. We're sitting there still talking. And I'm like, hey guys, we got a leaker here. My entire shirt, just this giant circle of wet on the center. It wasn't even 10 a.m.
Wait till you get to be my
changes.
age. You'll be doing wardrobe changes because of pee and spit up, and it's not the baby, believe me.
It's Haagen-Dazs. All right. Well, I've got a must-see moment, Scott.
I do too.
What is yours?
Mine might be yours, but
I don't think it is.
I watched Ceremony, Kai Neville's 13, 14-minute clip. I think it's on Stab. And I really enjoyed it. And
Okay.
It might be because it was post Haagen-Dazs and I was sitting there kind of in a semi-coma, and it was like, it had the perfect kind of chill, like the music in it is great. And I wanted to see what was going on with the music. Like the whole vibe of that thing is really like kind of pulsy and groovy and calming and sort of Buddhist. And if I'm not mistaken, the guy who did the music, the violin parts on the music, was the guy who did a movie with, gosh, do you know who I'm talking about? The credits? I'm losing it.
I didn't watch it.
Anyway.
I remember there was one piece that Neville did that he used the score from There Will Be Blood, the Daniel Day-Lewis movie.
Oh, cool. This was, I'm pulling it up. And there was a guy who did.
I need information.
Richard Tognetti. Didn't Richard Tognetti do a surf film with somebody, like with?
Doesn't ring a bell.
No, it doesn't. Maybe I'm.
Well, okay. Now I'm going to watch it based on your recommendation because.
Yeah, Ceremony.
Here's the deal, dude. I feel like Kai Neville's jumped the shark a bit. Like, I appreciate Kai. I think he's a talented filmmaker. He always had an art house quality to his films,
yeah,
which I could appreciate.
Yeah,
but I feel like they just have become over the top art house, and there isn't enough substance to actually warrant the vibe that he's trying to. Like, they're so stylized, and there's so little surfing. You know, like 90 seconds of surfing in that 10-minute piece or whatever.
Yeah,
and I'm not sold on it anymore. I feel like he jumped the shark, but I will give this one a chance.
This might be the same, you know, like, look, at the end of the day, there's so much for you and I and the rest of the world to take in, that something as intense as this does just feel like, oh yeah, another Kai Neville piece. All right, whatever, you know, but it doesn't discount sort of his aesthetic and what he's putting out there and the way he's putting it out there, and that he cares about it. And I'm not like the guy that goes, oh yeah, I've seen every Kai Neville thing. I don't even know. I'm not that guy, but I just happened to watch this.
Okay.
And I thought it was cool.
All right,
and I love Craig Anderson, and yeah.
Okay, I'll watch it. My must-see moment debuts tonight on HBO. It's a documentary. I have not yet seen it, but I'm excited to watch it. It is the Jake Burton documentary.
Oh, interesting.
I think it's called Dear Writer.
Who did it? Is it really? Well, if it's HBO, it'll be good.
Yeah, I'm not sure who made it. All I know is it's a documentary about Jake Burton, so I'm interested. And
I'm
yeah,
always
HBO 's
concerned
listed.
about these documentaries because, if they're done by, are they going to really tell the story?
There's
Like,
bigger things to be concerned
remember I
about,
was telling
Scott.
you about Joel Tudor would be the greatest. It'd be a
Yeah,
great documentary.
yeah.
So I told Joel, I ran into Joel and I was like, first of all, I was like, dude, he's like, dude, I'm not coming on your podcast. And I'm
Wait,
like,
did
dude,
you ask him? Or
yeah,
he
I
just
said,
said that
no,
straight
I
up?
sent him a text. I'm like, come on my podcast. So I ran
Why'd he
into
say
him
no?
because he's like, he thinks that a lot of his stuff gets taken out of context. And he's like, it's not going to do me any good. I just re-signed with Vans. I don't want to upset the apple cart. I'll get to he's smart enough to know that he'll probably say something that'll come back to haunt him.
And what's he doing on Instagram?
I'm just saying, I think he learned I don't know. I'm just telling you, he's like, dude, I'm like, Joel. But anyway, my point is,
Yeah.
I go, dude, your story would be insane. Like, wouldn't it be great if warts and all, Joel, we got to tell, we need to Malibu, Makaha. And he's like, dude, I don't want to rehash any of that shit. I don't need to piss any more people off. Like, and I kind of applaud him for that. Like, that's the smart play, actually, is to go, no, that's cool. Let's not do this. Like he mentioned that, he's kind of changing his trip a little bit as far as the way, media is going to perceive him. And I'm sure it has to do with his paycheck. Things are changing.
Fair enough. Everybody's
Yeah.
entitled to that. And I can't say that I would feel any differently than he does.
Totally.
There's a bigger picture at play, and with the right people involved, he could have both things.
Yeah. Maybe it's 15 years from now, 20 years from now, when, the time, there's a lot of timing involved here, right?
Yeah, sure. Well, Jake Burton, Dear Writer on HBO. My kook, yet again, another fire set ablaze.
I know.
In the Waikiki surfboard racks. This one was last Thursday, November 4th. So this is the third fire in 20 months.
I know. It's crazy, man.
And the arson from the second one that we talked about 2 or 3 weeks ago was already arrested. So this is just a totally different thing.
Yeah, I don't, I'm just assuming maybe it's some freaked out ice head, meth head, freaky guy that just, who knows, there's a lot of weird shit going on over there as far as homelessness and drugs and stuff. And it couldn't be I don't think it's a surfer.
No. And I know, I agree with you. It seems to be random, a reflection of how things have gotten out of hand there. But this one wasn't nearly as bad as the previous one, where 500 surfboards were lost. Only a few boards were lost, and they seemed to stop the fire before it was nearly as damaging as the previous one. But still, kook move.
Yeah, it's really sad. It's just
focus your ire on foilers towing in, not on innocent surfboard racks.
Even that, like, that whole thing, I just kind of go, it's embarrassing. That's why it's embarrassing to, like, meet somebody's parents or meet somebody that's not in our world, and they go, oh, you're a surfer. And I kind of think, oh God, did he just watch the fucking foil thing get destroyed by the boulders? And, it's just embarrassing. Like, aren't we evolving but we're not. Surfing is just this selfish, self-driven. It's just, and look, I'm as much a part of that as anyone. And I know there's really good surfers and there's really good things that come from surfing, especially on just an individual basis. Like the fact that you and I got in the water, had some time in nature with the universal spirit dwelling around us and seeing dolphins and coming in and feeling really good about, like, this, the individual aspect of getting wet is incredible. But as a global tribe, it feels like we're just, I know.
So I disagree with you in one part there. We are evolving, but there's certain things that are timeless. And what's timeless is yes, exactly. What's timeless is respect for your common man, and like a decorum in the lineup and that sort of thing is absolutely timeless. And so the e-foiler showing up and getting towed in is actually regression. This is not progress. This is somebody doing something that flies in the face of just the most basic fundamental rules. And so the retribution against him is also timeless. You have to do that to check, because we want to progress. We want to live in harmony. You stepped out of harmony and you put everybody in danger, and you were just rude. It was not courteous to come in and take everybody else's.
It was a cancer.
So we have to eradicate it. We have to
I want to
eradicate it.
know, remember our friend that sent this great advice to me about
Surfers are the best.
surfers are the best
I forgot. I've got a follow-up.
from Hawaii, right?
Yes.
I would like to know his opinion on this situation. Like how does he feel about boulders being thrown at the foil board? How does he feel about the foil boarder having the sort of, just like, I don't even know what it is, the gumption to get into the lineup with a boat. I want to know. Okay, go ahead. What's the
I mean, I
follow-up?
cannot believe I almost forgot this. It was in my notes and I just skimmed right past it, but he actually called in to give us an update on Surfers Are the Best. So
Okay.
the fact that you brought this up is perfect. And now I encourage him
What's
to
his
call in
name
next
again?
week. Shukin.
Shukin. Yeah, I love this guy. This guy's
All right.
like my mentor.
So this call came in a few days ago. Ready?
Maybe I
Aloha,
don't.
David and Scott. Shukin here with the Surfers Are the Best update. Last week I paddled out on my 9-9 timpone at Diamond Head on a waist-high day while David was becoming a father. Just outside the lineup, I went through the centering steps I had suggested to Scott previously. And whilst I was enjoying the morning, I noticed an older gentleman struggling to catch a wave on his shortboard. But I didn't think much of it because he had like a really nice smile on his face. A bit later, I noticed him paddle back out on a red longboard. I said, "Oh, you changed boards." He said, "Some young guy felt bad I wasn't catching waves, so he switched boards with me." Unbelievably, I thought. Paddling out after my next wave, I saw the young guy who owned the red longboard, and I asked, "Are you the one who loaned your board to that uncle?" He shyly said, "Yes. Thank you. That's the nicest thing I've heard in a long time. You have reassured my faith in humanity," I said as I extended a shaka and a smile. "I was born and raised surfing this beach. It's what I do," he said. I introduced myself. His name is Dylan. I'm still feeling the stoke. Thank you, Dylan. Thank you, boys. Aloha.
Surfers are the best.
That's cool, man. You know what that made me think of too, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I have noticed that in Hawaii, the aloha is much deeper and richer when it flows, when it happens. Like it's sincere and it's second nature. Like I sense here that like when it happens here, at least with me, it's like, oh, I got to think about being nice. And, like it's like my default is to be the worst. This is just me speaking. I'm not talking about other Californians, but I've noticed so many times, especially like over at Makaha, that the true Hawaiians are just flowing with that mana, that groovy aloha, and it's because the ocean's so close to them and it's so part of who they are that it's just second nature to just to go, yeah, you have some too. Like it's not a limited resource for them. There's this sense of unlimited, the pie, the pizza, there's plenty of pizza for everyone. And I'm sensing Dylan has a part of that mojo going.
Good thing that uncle wasn't surfing in San Francisco. He found his board smashed on the rocks.
Uncle Zuckerberg.
Quite a different vibe, right? I mean, San Francisco, the complete antithesis of the San Francisco scene.
Oh my lordy.
But good call, Shukin. And I honestly wouldn't have even thought, as a young buck growing up in Southern California, if I saw an old man struggling to catch waves, I would never have thought to allow him my surfboard to catch more waves on. I would have been like, sweet, fewer for you, more for me. And I would have paddled right past him. So, but I want to be the Dylan. I want to be like Dylan. Be like Dylan. Well, again, I'd like to hear Shukin's thoughts on San Francisco.
does he condone that behavior? I mean, of course he doesn't. Nobody, I think, with the sort of, you know, a loving and tolerant code.
Give us your take, Shukin. And here's the
Yeah.
deal. I think the listener line cuts out at about
Yeah.
2 minutes. So he kept that one. I think he learned his lesson from the previous call that did cut out, because that call came in under 2 minutes. But give us your take in under 2 minutes. The telephone number is 760-237-0150.
It's funny that the listener line is a limited resource as well. There's only 2 minutes, man. Okay, well, look, until next time, David, adios and aloha.
Let's record a Neat Essentials commercial real quick, if you don't mind, and I'll just stitch it in.
Sure.
Hey, Scott, I don't know if you saw on Stab, there was an article a couple of weeks ago about thousands of wetsuits being stuck at sea due to the port backup in Long Beach.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
That's the main story around here in California is the lack of distribution, man. All this stuff just sitting on these big boats out there off Huntington Beach.
It's unprecedented. It's due to COVID largely, but we've never seen anything like this. But wetsuits was the story on Stab, and you know where you can still find plenty of inventory?
Heck yes. Needessentials.com.
They never leave us hanging, Scott. They've been here with us for years and they're still here. I went on their website just before we started recording to try to get a 4.3, fully available, inexpensive, high quality, premium rubber.
I love it. You know what? Only what you need, only the essentials. Needessentials.com. It's the giving season. This is the season to be thinking about your friends, your neighbors, your family, your loved ones. You know what? A new wetsuit would go pretty far.
Neat Essentials.
Or a wet dry bag.
Outerwear, anything. Booties, by the way, fins, traction, leashes, all the accessories. But again, everything you need, nothing you don't.
Those are more, thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt. Those are more price point type things, like get your loved one a leash, you know, even though I just said leashes.
Totally.
Didn't I early say leashes have ruined surfing? But anyway, I wear a leash, so let's just keep it straight. Okay,
cool.
Neat Essentials.
All right. Thank you.
I butchered that pretty hard.
No, it's all good.
Okay.
All right. See ya.
Okay. Bye-bye.